plants are living things, and some plants really don't want to be eaten by a giant meat monster looking for a tasty meal. This is why some plants have evolved to defend themselves, be it with spikes, with a horrible taste, or, in the case of this video's topic, with toxins. Because today we're gonna look at some foods we eat every day that are actually toxic. Number 1. Nightshades. Nightshades are a vast family of flowering plants, containing herbs, vines, shrubs, trees, and even some crops. Specifically, they include things like tomatoes, eggplants, potatoes, bell peppers, and chili peppers. And the thing that sets these plants apart is the fact that they contain powerful alkaloid toxins. Alkaloids are defined as containing at least one nitrogen atom, pretty general. But the mechanism of action, so neurotoxicity, hepatotoxicity, cardiotoxicity, etc., depends on the specific compound. If you want to know the specific toxins, you can look at this table. But an interesting one is capsaicin, which is found in hot peppers. It's the compound responsible for spiciness. Who'd have thought we'd find pleasure in eating literal toxins produced by a plant to defend itself from us? Oh yeah, didn't mention all of these contain nicotine. Especially eggplants, 100 micrograms of nicotine per gram. Number 2. Rhubarb. Rhubarbs are the edible stalks of the rheon plants, from the Polygonaceae family. We humans eat them commonly, but they have a dark secret hidden within them. As you might have guessed, it's a toxin. Oxalic acid is a nephrotoxin, so a toxin that affects the kidneys. And it can be pretty bad. Well, in enough quantities, of course. But don't worry, it's found mainly in the leaves rather than the stem. And you need to eat kilograms of these leaves to die. Remember, that doesn't mean you won't feel very bad long before that. Well, there's also technically emodin, another toxin in the stem, but again, in low quantities. Number 3. Alcohol. Whether you want to accept it or not, alcohol, also known as ethanol, is a type of toxin. Specifically, it's a neurotoxin that, when metabolized, generates reactive oxygen species, or ROS. By the name, you can tell they're quite reactive, and in this case, they can cause neuron damage. However, alcohol also damages neurons by potentially activating inflammatory pathways in the brain. Nonetheless, this isn't what causes the feeling you get when you drink. The reason for this is that alcohol stimulates the release of dopamine, the pleasure hormone, endorphins, the happiness and painkiller hormones, and serotonin, which reduces anxiety. The combination of all of this means that alcohol is a potentially very addictive substance. Another effect alcohol has as a neurotoxin is disrupting neurotransmitter signaling by enhancing GABA, an inhibitory neurotransmitter, and inhibiting the action of glutamate, an excitatory neurotransmitter. Basically, you become temporarily dumber when you drink, which is why you shouldn't drive under the effects of alcohol. Number 4. Cyanide. Now, why am I making a section about a toxin instead of a food this time? Well, that's because you have no idea how many plants contain cyanide. For instance, apple seeds, which I really hope you're not eating, and almonds contain amygdalin, which is converted to cyanide when metabolized. But it's not just bitter almonds, of which it takes about 30 to kill you. Sweet almonds also have some amygdalin, although it'll take kilograms of them for you to actually die. Other plants that contain precursor compounds to cyanide include cassavas, lima beans, bamboo shoots, and spinach. There are also some which contain cyanide directly, like cherry pits, elderberries, millet sprouts, and the pits inside apricots, peaches, and plums. Now, you usually don't need this, but they're technically in your food and you gotta be careful with them. Number 5. Coffee. Coffee is the second most popular drink in the world, and that's just after water. Of the 8 billion people on Earth, 1 billion drink coffee daily. But what many people don't know, or don't want to know, is that the caffeine in it is actually a neurotoxin. What it does is blocking the adenosine receptors in the brain, and as adenosine causes relaxation and sleepiness, caffeine increases alertness and wakefulness. However, it also indirectly inhibits the reabsorption of dopamine into the brain, which causes the dopamine to exert its effects for longer and can actually cause addiction. Well, actually there are other factors to addiction, like actual adaptations of the brain that create dependence or even a necessity for more every time, the daily need for that artificial wakefulness, or just plain old habits. But the point is, it's quite a powerful neurostimulating toxin. That also means there's a dose at which you start to get seizures and eventually die, but you need to drink almost 40 cups to reach that point. Number 6. Chocolate. I'm sorry everyone, but chocolate isn't spared from this list either. Cocoa beans, the beans used to make chocolate, contain the neurotoxin theobromine, which persists in the chocolate from them. It inhibits an enzyme that breaks down camp, which causes bronchial smooth muscle to relax and has a diuretic effect. And it also inhibits adenosine, a neurotransmitter that causes sleep and relaxation, just like caffeine. Oh, speaking of caffeine, did you know a single ounce of chocolate contains a good fraction of the caffeine in a cup of coffee? The amount of these toxins varies between dark, milk, and white chocolate, but an ounce of dark chocolate contains more than 10% the caffeine in an entire cup of coffee. Oh no. Number 7. Nutmeg. Now, this is an interesting one. Nutmeg is a common spice with a slightly sweet taste, which comes from the seed of trees from the genus Myristica. However, when consumed in large quantities, the compounds in nutmeg can be strong psychoactive agents. These can cause convulsions, nausea, dehydration, and other not too pleasurable symptoms. They can even cause hallucinations. Nutmeg is also able to interact with some drugs to cause even worse effects. So remember kids, always consult your doctor before swallowing an entire jar of nutmeg. He'll probably tell you not to do so anyway. Number 8. Cinnamon. And here we have yet another spice, and it's even more common than the last one. Cinnamon is used in all kinds of yummy desserts, and it's also toxic. It contains the compound coumarin, which isn't really as bad as the other ones, but it can still be dangerous. Coumarin is an anticoagulant because it's a vitamin K antagonist and thus inhibits vitamin K dependent clotting factors in the blood. Even though this can't directly kill you, get a hemorrhage or a wound, and you're done for. It also affects the liver, and too much of it can even cause liver failure. How much of it, you say? Well, that depends on the specific cinnamon type. But the one in supermarkets actually contains more coumarin than the true one. For the former, you still have to eat hundreds of grams to actually die though. Number 9. Processed meats. Now, this is a rare case of toxins in food not being a defense mechanism, but a bit of a healthcare oopsie by companies trying to get money. The problem with processed meats is that they contain nitrates and nitrites, which are added for preservation but have a catch. When consumed, they enter the acidic conditions of the human stomach, which allow for a reaction with amines that forms NOCs, compounds which have been linked to cancer. To make matters worse, when you cook these meats, PAHs and HAHs form. PAHs form due to incomplete combustion and are carcinogenic, and HAHs form from a reaction between amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, and creatine, which happens at high heats, and it's also carcinogenic. But how bad is it? Well, according to studies, eating just 50 grams of processed meat daily increases the chances of developing colorectal cancer by about 18%, those of pancreatic cancer by 19%, those of prostate cancer by 4%, and those of breast cancer by 9%. Well, thanks for watching. Tell me in the comments how many of your favorite dishes I just ruined, and please like and subscribe so I can reach more people and spread science around the world. And necessary awareness, I guess. See you next time.